have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how do you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
Hello, and when that snake bite enters your veins, it is time for the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast, episode 123. And joining me, as always, the host with the most, Major Caldwell. How you doing, Major?
I'm good, man. It's been a long week for me already, but you know, let's get it in. You know, we have fun doing this. Let's have some fun.
This is my stress relieving period of time here. This hour to 90 minutes to 120 minutes, depending on the day of the week, depending on how we're feeling. This is where I let go. And anyone who's listening right now on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, hey, make sure to rate and review us. Let us know. Drop those comments in there. And if you're watching us on the Vipers Network here on the YouTube, make sure to get those comments in. Be part of this conversation because we will answer each and every comment we get back to you. And hit that thumbs up, turn on those notifications because there is no off season for the Vipers. We've got player news breaking as it happens. We come out you here on the show. We've got draft profiles coming up. And as always, we've got the ViperCast. So many different ways to tune in. And we've got all kinds of content coming for you here very shortly. And as Roger Goodell would say, we have a trade. Not really your the type of trades that we've had. It's not the Amari Cooper. It's not the Deshaun Watson type deals that we've seen last. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. We've seen these deals all go down. But now we have a draft pick swap-a-rooney going down between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints. If you can make sense out of this, you are a better man than I because I still haven't figured out if this was a good trade for the Eagles. I haven't figured out if it's a good trade for the Saints. I don't know where this quite lies here yet, but hey, the Saints are acquiring the 16th and 19th overall picks and a 6th-round selection, number 194, in this year's draft. And they're making the swap with the Eagles. Meanwhile, the Eagles have the 18th overall as part of the package. It includes a 2023 first-rounder, 2024 second-rounder, a pick in a 3rd round, number 101, and a 7th round section, 237 in this draft. So now when you all break it all down, New Orleans now has 2 first-round picks this year, 16 and 19. Philadelphia, who had 3 first-round picks this year, now only has 2 first-round picks this year, picks number 15 and 18. So basically, they picked before the Saints in with both these selections. So the Saints had to have made some sort of process here thinking, hey, we need to get ahead of somebody. That's why we're making this move. But Major, break this all down. How do you see this trade going down? Winners, losers? What's your thought process in this? Why do you make a deal like this?
I think you hit it right on the head with your last statement there. They felt like they had to get in front of someone. And usually when teams do that, it's always quarterback involved in it. So I'm pretty sure, or I'm assuming that they're looking at one of these quarterbacks. Maybe, I don't think Malik Willis will be there around that time. Maybe a Sam Howell, whatever his name is, or Desmond Ritter. Like it may be one of these guys. I don't know. Yeah, usually when people move up like that, it's quarterback. But at this point, I'm just going to call it a win-win because with draft picks, you never know. Even if you move up, you can still, fail on that pick. So these picks can bust easily. So, we'll just hold out the official opinions until we see what happens. But at this point, I think it's a win-win.
Now, for the Eagles, I don't want to say they're out of the quarterback market here in 2022. I don't want to say that they're not drafting a quarterback with either one of these picks, But I think this buys time for Jalen Hurts. I think this gives Jalen Hurts one more year to prove it. I think they're waiting on that 2023 class. We got some pretty good quarterbacks coming in 2023. They may not be in love with any of the guys coming up. Guys like Malik Willis, Desmond Ritter, these guys are all kind of a developmental type quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think any of them are ready to start right now as it stands. And then I think this says more about the Eagles. They may like that 2023 class a little bit more than this 2022 class throughout the top and the bottom. There's a lot of depth at the edge position. The edge is really deep. But if you're looking for offense, the running back, the quarterback, the wide receivers, the tight ends, this is not a deep class, not a very strong class as far as when you're looking at top to bottom and how it works out. I mean, I think there's a lot of edge guys, linebackers, safeties that I think those positions are deeper. And if your team looking for those kind of pieces, then maybe you can make a move up. For the Eagles, they may be looking for the wide receivers and this and that. So, hey, let's trade back. Let's see what 2023 brings. We feel a little bit better. We've heard all the last couple seasons, the 2023 running class is projected to be better. But, hey, we don't know who's coming out yet. So it's really tough to say which class is going to be better. We don't know who it's going to be. But for me, this says that the Eagles are going to give Hurts one more season to see how it works out and go from there. Now, the latest rumor, this is a very heavy New Orleans type feel here because they've been making a little bit more noise than most teams here this week. Lots of noise the week before, but now the Honey Badger is visiting New Orleans, checking out the Saints, played his college ball at LSU. What do you think of that fit potentially?
Anywhere he's one of those plug and play. Like anywhere he goes, he's going to change the dynamic in that locker room. He's a winner. He's won in every level. Some people's got that like lucky horseshoe up their ass, but but yeah, they usually those guys are. He's one of those guys who can change the whole course of your defense just by him being a great leader. I was really hoping he'll stay here in LA. I think wasn't he out here last week?
He may have been on a visit. I'm not paying that much close attention.
Yeah.
I think this was his first official visit, though, was to New Orleans. I don't think he's visited any other facilities outside of New Orleans here so far.
Okay. Yeah, I've been hearing some rumors about him being in LA as well with the Rams or with the Chargers. So we'll see what happens.
Well, anyone seems to be signing with the Los Angeles Rams. They don't believe in no stinking cap. They don't care about no stinking draft picks. They want to win. This is a team that brought in Von Miller last year. This is a team that brought Eric Weddle off the bench to address those safety concerns. So it wouldn't really surprise me for Tyrann Mathieu to come here to the Los Angeles Rams. However, they did have one major glaring hole. When we look at that Super Bowl run, we look at the numbers. Troy Reeder was not getting that job done in the middle of that Los Angeles Rams defense. Great back end, great front end. That linebacking core left a little to be desirable. So what do? Von Miller, he's gone. You lose one Hall of Famer. You bring another Hall of Famer in there to plug the middle this time in Bobby Wagner. This is one of those ultimate kill two birds with one stone. Seahawks let him go. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going to bring you back. And, hey, Bobby Wagner, he's from that area, right? He's from Los Angeles. So this is kind of a homecoming of sorts for him. You know he wanted to be there. He flirted with the Baltimore Ravens. He heard him out. But ultimately, he wanted to be a Los Angeles Ram. The Rams wanted him there. And like I said, for some reason, they're playing with monopoly money because there is no cap in Los Angeles.
They know how to work it. And I think that may be a LA thing because that's kind of like how the Lakers are running their organization now, is kind of like pick people up off the whoever free agency, just pick everyone up and get the biggest name you can get, and we'll worry about the money later. But I love this. Bobby Wagner, I think he still has a lot in the tank. I think he was kind of off a little bit last year just because he was on a horrible team, defense, etc. But the one thing I want to keep an eye on, it's kind of hard to be a middle linebacker when a defensive tackle is one of the guys who's like getting sacks and stuff like that. Usually the defensive tackle is the one that's like holding up the line so the linebacker can make a play. So, you said the other kid, what's his name? You say he wasn't getting done in the middle, but I think it's hard to be a middle linebacker when you playing behind a great defense lineman.
I think the numbers there last year. I think the numbers last year, Troy Reeder had about 91 tackles. I think Bobby Wagner had about 170 total tackles.
Yeah, and he's probably going to have a lot more, but he's going to be a little more exposed because, like I said, when you have a person like Aaron Darnold, his sack numbers are always pretty good, he's not blocking for the linebacker. That's what the D tackle usually does, block for the linebacker. When you're not doing that, that linebacker is going to get exposed. But I think Bobby Wagner is good enough to overcome that, and I think he has a better rapport with Darnold. So I think Darnold will kind of protect him a little bit more in the middle there.
Well, speaking of protection, I don't know how to phrase this, but the New Orleans Saints are protecting themselves in this QB market right now by bringing back Major's MVP candidate from last season.
You had to bring that up.
Jameis Winston. Not only is Jameis Winston coming back, they've gone out and signed Andy Dalton to also be in that quarterback room with Taysom Hill, which meant Blake Bortles was given his release from the Saints as per his request. How do we see this quarterback situation? Are we going to have this thing with Calvin again here where we're talking Jameis Winston versus Taysom Hill all year? Or does Andy Dalton kind of get involved in this whole sway? Because this seems like a lot of QB2, QB3 type guys in one room. Are we going to get Mike Thomas back this year? That's another question for the Saints.
That's a huge question. But I'm surprised they signed Jameis like this early. I thought it was going to wait till after the draft. You still have Jimmy G like lingering around, and now you have what's the kid from the Browns? He's out there. Baker's out there, kind of lost. I think Baker would be a great fit for the Saints in that city and everything. He, fun city, Mardi Gras, all that stuff. I think he'll fit right in there. I don't know. I'm really surprised with James. And what's his name? He's going to play tight end now. He's focused on tight end. Your boy, the quarterback. What's his name? God damn, I'm all over.
Hill.
Taysom Hill. Thank you. I don't know. I can't remember any names today. Sorry, but Taysom. He said he's going to focus on linebacker this year. So I mean, on tight end. So let's see if he does that. But I don't. Jameis looked good at the beginning. I don't know what happened. Like speaking of Jameis, I'm getting the eye surgery on Friday. So shout out to Jameis with the LASIK surgery. I'm getting my eyes done Friday.
Well, you know who else we're shouting out here? We're shouting out the Fantasy Points Media Group, fantasypoints.com. Hey, this ViperCast is presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. And right now you can head to fantasypoints.com, enter promo code VIPERS22, and get yourself 10% off that subscription. But hey, they've got some other things going down over at Fantasy Points as well. They're just launching a new PGA content there. So you're going to want to get in on that action. They've got some streams going on here leading right up to the Masters. And hey, on April 1st, the NFL Prospect Guide, that dropped. Greg Cosell there, Wes Huber, two of the smartest guys when it comes to the draft, getting it done there in one draft magazine. 200-plus rookie profiles from Cosell there. Strengths, weaknesses, NFL transitions, rookie rankings, 2023 prospects, devy rankings, just $25. That's it. $25. That's like what? A coffee and a muffin from Starbucks? Get
True.
this. This is the best deal out there right now.
That's like not even a gallon of gas right there.
Also, very good point there, the way the gas price has been kicking around there. But hey, we're going to dive right in now to the NFL draft here. We're going to talk a little bit of the prospect rankings here as we see them go down. We're just going to give you our top 5 at each position and kind of go from there. Now, earlier today, Charles Davis, he kind of did his first round mock draft, some interesting landing spots for some players. In the first round, keep in mind, this is just first round players that he's got projected. He's got Malik Willis going to Carolina. He's got Kenny Pickett going to Pittsburgh and Matt Carroll going 32nd to the Detroit Lions. Some other players that we'll talk about here in just a second. He's got no running backs going in the first round, no tight ends going in the first round, but he's got Garrett Wilson going to Atlanta. He's got Drake London going to Arizona, Chris Olave to New Orleans, Jameson Williams to Buffalo, Johan Dodson to Green Bay, and then Christian Watson finds himself sliding into the first round, going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Anything really surprise you, someone who's not in that first round that you really expected to be in the first round?
Not really. I do think we should get a running back. I think we're going to get Breece Hall in the first round towards the end of it. But yeah, this draft, these players are so close. There's no like clear cut anything in this draft. So And I think Charles Davis is probably gonna like change this, week to week as well, leading up to the draft. So this is a close draft.
And don't worry, I will be releasing my own mock draft here on this show here in just a couple weeks leading up to the draft. We will talk about that. We will dissect it. We'll mock it. We'll ridicule it.
Oh, we will.
Everything will be normal in the world once again. But let's talk quarterbacks right now. Let's focus on this quarterback position. So when we're looking at the consensus top 5 right now, the consensus top 5 as per Fantasy Pros, I went on their website, pulled that over, got the consensus ranking there. At number 1, Malik Willis. At number 2, Kenny Pickett. Number 3, Matt Carroll. Number 4, Sam Howell. And at number 5 was Desmond Ritter. Now, Major, what do you got for your top 5? Is it similar or is it you got a little bit different setup?
Mine is way different, man. And I've been like Desmond Ritter was like probably my number 3 quarterback last year, if I'm not mistaken. But he was if he would have came out, I was really hoping he would have ended up in New England. I thought that would be a great fit for him. But he went back to school and he did the same thing he did the year before. He went out there and won like in Cincinnati. Like, I think that's a pretty tall task, even though they do have a lot of people in this draft. It's still like Cincinnati. It's not one of these power 10, power 5 schools or whatever they call them. But I really like Desmond Ritter. I think he has the best size out of all these quarterbacks, and he showed in the combine he's running a 4.5. A 6'4" quarterback that runs a 4.5 looks pretty good to me with a cannon arm. Next on my list, I have Malik Willis. The thing that scares me about him is all the hype around him right now. With the long bomb and the speed, and to me that scares me when everyone's talking about a player. It scares me off a little bit. The next one I have Sam. I think he was just down last year because all his players left the year before, so it's really hard to really encapsulate what he did the year before. Kenny Pickett, whatever his name is, Matt Carroll, those 2 guys to me are still like question marks. I haven't seen enough tape on those guys. I mean, I have, but nothing really jumps out to me. And then my sleeper, man, I love Brock Purdy. Like, that dude is just a tough, gritty, like gets the job done, is always ugly. He kind of reminds me of Doug Flutie a little bit. I kind of get that vibe from him, but yeah, that's my top 5 plus my deep sleeper there. Who you got, Matt?
You know what? I couldn't agree. I mean, we're looking at these guys. You've got Desmond Ritter, number 1. I've got him at number 3. I got Malik Willis at number 1. I think that's the Konami code, cheat code for the quarterback position that we're seeing. If we're talking fantasy, you almost need that pocket passer. While they're still effective, they still can get the job done. When we talk fantasy, even Tim Tebow was a QB1 talking fantasy football here, right? Because of his rushing ability, those rushing scores, that kind of stuff. So you could be a horrible quarterback, but as long as you can find a way to get the ball in the end zone, you're going to produce fantasy points. Now, for me, Desmond Ritter, Malik Willis there, a lot of the same things that you talk about Desmond Ritter. The one thing when I seen him go to the combine is he was a little thicker than I thought he would be. I mean, he came in looking pretty good there. I mean, I think he weighed in about 220, 6'1", give or take. I thought he'd be a little bit leaner, but he was a little thick and thick legs. You tell he's a quarterback. I mean, when he gets in that open field, look out. He is electric. There is no doubt about it. You can see some comparisons, why the people are making comparisons to Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. And guess what? I don't think you're that wrong when you're comparing them to these, because both Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts had some passing problems coming into the pros. The legs will get the job done for Malik Willis. However, he is going to need to fine-tune the mechanics of the game. His feet get a little happy in the pocket. He wants to scramble, but he's got a quick release when he wants to let it go. He picks up a blitz really good, so it's a quick, lets it go, here we go. If he doesn't have that pass, he's going to get out of the pocket. He's going to do some good things. However, he's not, as a quarterback that can scramble, who has a big rocket arm, and he's got an arm on him, he isn't very accurate. He can't really throw with much touch when he's on the run with the ball. So that's a little bit of something he's going to have to clean up here. But look what he's done. He's a guy who's thrown for almost 3,000 yards. He almost ran for 1,000 yards. That's a pretty good season for Liberty, right? This is a team that he took to 9-1 back in 2020. Not so good this year. They're 8-5. But when I look at this, he is that guy, but he is still a project. All these quarterbacks for me are projects. There's not one that I'm going to be like, yeah, he's a day one starter right now. No questions about it. I don't see that guy, that day one starter. But hey, you know what? I love myself a little funk. I think upside funk you up. Upside funk you up. There is all kinds of upside with Malik Willis here. And you can say the same with Desmond Ritter. Same kind of breed. Quarterback who's not afraid to get out of the pocket, not afraid to run. Now, when we look at the rest of my rankings here, I've got Willis at number 1. I've got Matt Carroll at number 2. He's coming off a little bit of that injury there. Desmond Ritter, I got Howell at 4. And Kenny Pickett. Yes, size matters. I don't care. Those tiny hands ain't going to get the job done. Actually, has nothing to do with his hands. I just don't like what he's done. I'm not a big fan. Call it a gut feeling, whatever you want. Kenny Pickett for me, I mean, these quarterbacks, none of them are great. So it wouldn't surprise me if Kenny Pickett at my number 5 ends up being the number 1 quarterback of this group. But the way I'm looking at it, I don't see it. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I just don't see this right now. Now, the one guy I kind of got really excited about, not a superstar. He's not going to do a whole heck of a lot in the NFL. He may be a career backup guy, but hey, let's give Dustin Crum a little bit of love there out of Kent State because he was doing some pretty big things. Yeah, exactly. You want Brock Purdy. Purdy. I'm going to Dustin Crum because he was doing some pretty good things in the combine. Flip that film back on for the combine. He may have had the best combine of all these quarterbacks. He was hitting it.
Yeah.
He was dealing the ball. He was hitting it. He was with touch, with accuracy. He was moving well. He was arguably the best looking quarterback out there during the combine. Now, this is no pads. There's nothing coming at you. The game's slowing down, but he put up some pretty impressive numbers there at Kent State. And for me, I really like what he was able to do. There's no question about that. He can play in the National Football League. I just don't think he's going to get that QB1 number. But hey, who knows? Lots of people were knocking Brady when he was drafted 199th overall. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be Tom Brady by any stretch of anyone's imagination. But hey, when we look at it, he's one of those guys that, you know what? Let's say what he can do. He might be able to do it. Now, at Kent State, when we look at what his numbers were, I mean, the guy only threw for 3,200 yards last year. And, like, I'm looking at the numbers here right now. 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 3,200 yards passing. That's not a bad year. You know he can throw the ball around. This is at Kent State now, mind you. But, hey, I like him. He's kind of my sleeper. That's what this is for. This is for deep sleepers. We don't want the obvious here. We want to go deep. And Carson Strong did not make either one of our top 5 lists. For me, it's that mobility thing. The knee is not quite there. He's got an arm. He's got probably the strongest arm in the draft, arguably. Right. It's just he's got questions surrounding those knees, and I don't think those questions have been answered as of yet. I go through social media. I check things out to see if maybe I'm missing something. Nothing has turned up saying, hey, you know what? We give a solid vote of confidence to Carson Strong's knees, so you should give a vote of confidence too. I don't see that yet. Nothing's telling me to believe in Carson Strong, so I'm going to hold back on it. But Carson Strong, another guy who played well in college, could definitely do well in the NFL, could definitely play well on Sundays. There's so many questions, so many red flags that I'm not willing to take that chance. And I don't see a lot of Carson Strong talk in the first round, a lot of these drafts either. So he could be that guy a la Dak Prescott who gets drafted a little bit later who could have a very solid career.
And before you move on, let me get your thoughts on the height of these quarterbacks. It seems like the quarterbacks are all kind of lingering around like 6 feet, 6'1". Do you think that's like size still matter or height still matters in the NFL?
I don't know if height matters as much. I'm going to say it does matter. I mean, you don't see very small quarterbacks having big time success when we look at the numbers. There's outliers. Drew Brees, definitely a smaller quarterback, could definitely get the ball out and do some things. But he had to find different ways to get that ball, to change the angle and stuff like that. So if these quarterbacks can learn how to change those angles, how to move that pocket a little bit, then yes, they can find success as a smaller quarterback. But I still think that prototype, that bigger quarterback, you still need to be that. At the end of the day, you're still trying to look over guys that are 6'6" in front of you, right? So
right.
Now, let's move along here. Let's talk about the running back position because, hey, I've got my very own running back guru sitting right next to me right now to talk running backs. He also happens to be an alumni from Canyon College.
College
Number
of the
9 in
Canyons,
the
good
program,
job.
but number 1 in the hearts.
There you go. There you go.
Now, the consensus breaks down like Charles Davis. We looked at his mock here that just came down. Not a single running back in the first round. Running backs in the first round, they're kind of a dying breed. They're becoming harder and harder to find. And because, you know what, that we talk about that zero RB, that hero RB strategy, that's kind of where we're going as far as fantasy goes, because once these guys are getting to that second contract, there is a 90% chance and they're going to take a dive when it comes to production. There's still those outliers, still guys producing at 26, 27, 28 years old. But for the majority of the league, that's not been the case. So I think that's where we're getting the devaluation of the running back position. So the top 5 by consensus per Fantasy Pros here right now: Breece Hall, number 1, Kenneth Walker at number 2, Isaiah Spiller, number 3, Rachaad White from Arizona State at number 4, and a bit of a surprise here, but I can see it, Zamir White out of Georgia at number 5. What do you got for me here? Because I'm looking at your numbers, and you got a little bit of different order. You got a little bit of surprise thrown in there for the people here. Let's hear your take on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zamir White. I thought last year he was up there, but he has a lot of knee injuries and stuff. It kind of worries me a bit. But to my list, I'm gonna run my list down, then I'll talk about him a little bit. So 1, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, Jerome Ford, James Cook, and then my deep sleeper is Hassan Haskins. I want to talk about Jerome Ford. Like, I don't think he's getting enough attention. This dude is like nice size, speed, power, and you put on his tape, he pops. Like every run, like he has good pad level, he runs through things, he has good hands. He just, to me, he's one of the better all-round backs, and I don't understand why he's not getting more acclaim. I love a running back that's 5'11-ish, 200. Maybe he can get up to like 215. But running a 4.4, he's just a playmaker, man. He's explosive. The next guy is my deep sleeper. Another one I put on. I don't really follow Michigan football too much because I just don't like the way the program is being ran, and it seems like it's a waste of time to try to evaluate players from Michigan because they don't use. It seems like they try to use each player the worst way they can during their season. So when these guys get to the league or something, it's like a totally different thing. So I popped on the tape of Hassan Haskins, and that guy popped. Power, size, speed. That's, pad level, run through, like all that stuff is contact balance. To me, he's one of my favorite players in the draft, and I'm trying to keep it a secret. He has some of the best size out the running back, 6'1", 220, even 4 or 5 at that size. To me, that's I love everything about that. I'm not too sure about his hands. I got to look at it again, but I think he did catch the ball pretty well. But I'm just going off of feeling right now. Like you were saying earlier about the gut feeling, to me, it seems like he could actually be one of the better backs out this class just off the film I've seen. And if he gets into the right system, he's going to be a problem.
Yeah, so I'm looking at your list here. Like I said, Jerome Ford kind of was a bit of a shocker there. Are you worried about the ball security issues at all with him?
No, that's the NFL gets you right. That's the one thing that's the number one thing they coach in the NFL,
And then, so like I said, our lineups we're pretty close here. I mean, I've got Breece Hall at number 1. I've got Kenneth Walker at 2. Rachaad White is number 3, and he's kind of moving things up there a little bit quicker. Isaiah Spiller. You're not a big fan of him, eh? You may have Kellen Balaj syndrome is what that might end up being, because it took me a long time to come back around on Rachaad White. It's not because of anything that Rachaad White did. It's everything that I saw Kellen Balaj do at Arizona State. Kellen Balaj, I was all in on. I was hyped up about him. And then he's come to the NFL and he's done nothing. So this kind of gives you that Baylor Bears wide receiver thing. Once you see a Baylor Bear wide receiver in the draft, you're like, oh no, been there, done that. Rachaad White, I think, got a little bit of that negative criticism because of he came out of Arizona State. But I got him still there, number 3. Isaiah Spiller at 4. We agree on number 5 with James Cook. I think James Cook is going to be dynamite here. Mm-hmm. He's a good pass catcher. He can definitely make some cuts. He forged his own way. I mean, he could have gone to Florida State. Instead, he chose to go to Georgia. That was his thing, and he did pretty good. Him and Zamir White were a good 1-2 combination. For me, though, my deep sleeper is going to be Brian Robinson out of Alabama. Shocker there. I'm taking a guy from the Tide here at running back.
He's not a sleeper.
He ain't no sleeper, but hey, there's people that are all over the map on him. I mean, some people, I got him as my number 6 running back. That's how high I am on Brian Robinson right now, because I think NFL values him a little different than what we do in fantasy football. I think the draft capital is going to be there. Why? Because he knows how to pass protect already. A lot of these running backs coming out of college don't have that. Meanwhile, Brian Robinson, he's basically a doctor. He was in college for like 7 years or something like that, right?
That's the only thing I don't like about him.
The age is going to be a knock, but the dude is built like a freaking linebacker.
He's NFL ready. Out of all the running backs, he's the most NFL ready with size and everything.
We are talking country thick. They make him different there at Alabama. We've watched the Trent Richardsons come through. We watched Derrick Henry come through. 6'2", 225. The dude is already a man. Like, I mean, like he ran a 4.53.
That was
adjust that for that speed score with his size. That is going to come in very, very good. Now, I do have questions. Obviously, his age comes in there. He's like a one gear kind of guy. He is going to run you over. He may hesitate a little bit between the tackles. That's not his thing. We know it's not his thing. His thing is to put you on your back end. So I think teams are going to find that very valuable. And hey, we're talking fantasy football here. How do you score points? By scoring touchdowns. Guys like LeGarrette Blount have made a living out of not getting huge amounts of yards and stuff because they can find a way in the back of the end zone. The best way to get in the end zone is to get on the field first, and Brian Robinson's pass protection will get him on the field. Now, a couple of those other running backs that everyone's been talking about, Breece Hall. I mean, this is a kid I absolutely love. He's got soft hands, can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can definitely run the ball. We've seen him do that. He had a streak there in college, 24 straight games where he scored a touchdown in his junior and sophomore seasons. This kid is unbelievable. It doesn't hurt that he's got a family bloodline there. His stepfather, Jeff Smith, he spent some time there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Kansas City Chiefs. His cousin is 49er great, Roger Craig. So running the ball is in the DNA for these guys. 2-time Doak Walker finalist, All-American. I can run these things down. All Big, whatever 12, whatever division you want to call that now. I mean, I guess it's the Big 12, whoop-de-doo, but he still produced. I don't care where you are, what league you're in. That is impressive numbers all the way across the board.
Would you take him in the first round, Matt?
If I'm a team that has a need at running back and I'm picking either early in the second round where I can trade up and get that 5th-year option on him, then I'm strongly considering it. If I'm on the back end team, like a Buffalo Bills type team, then that's a guy that I may take a run at. Yes, Devin Singletary's there, but hey, I want myself a true 3-down back, and that's what Breece Hall is going to give you. He is not going to come off the field. He can do it all for you. Look, his numbers here right now. Last year, 1,472 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. The year before that, in 2020, he had even a better year, 279 carries, 5.6 yards per carry, 1,572 yards. That's almost 3,000 yards in 2 seasons there at Iowa State. He basically made people forget that David Montgomery came out of there. He basically slid right in where David Montgomery left, and the Iowa State Cyclones did not miss a beat. Now, the other running back I want to talk about is the Michigan State product there, Kenneth Walker, transferring from Wake Forest to Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
He was not a big name guy. There's a reason why he went to Wake Forest. His options weren't that great coming out of high school. Kent State, Arkansas State, Eastern Kentucky, Illinois State. Those are not big time programs. So when he got to Wake, he was not being used. His first year at Wake Forest, 579 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. That was actually 3rd best in the ACC. It was actually better than Zenovan Knight out of NC State, who some people are talking about in the draft. I don't think there's a whole lot there, but hey, 2020, some dude named Christian Beal. I don't know where Christian Beal is nowadays. He was splitting carries with this guy. Yeah, that's a good indication that you need to hit the transfer portal. When you're splitting carries with a guy named Christian Beal, get out of there. Get out of there. Then he enters on Michigan State. 1,636 rushing yards. 125 plus rushing yards in 8 out of 12 games. That is absolutely ridiculous. Again, Doak Walker Award. First team All Big Ten. Unanimous first team All-American by every single publication out there. That's how good Kenneth Walker was. Now, the one knock that people may bring is that Ohio State game. He had 6 carries, 25 yards. That probably hurt him in the Heisman race when it was all said and done. I think at one point prior to that game, he may have been the lead dog in that Heisman race, right? He was unbelievable doing things there. So,
but the one thing you mentioned about him that's why he's second on my list here. I love a dog. He worked. He, like you said, unknown player, worked his way up to being one of the top players. So that takes a lot of dedication. That takes a lot of hard work. He's a gym rat. He's just in there. You know what I mean? So like that type of player I want on my team because he's going to be there. But the only thing that scares me is that did he max out yet? But I think he still has potential to be to take it to that next level. Did you have one more thing? Because I had one question for you about one of the players on your list.
Yeah, no, let's go one more thing here to add with Kenneth Walker. The thing that's kind of holding him back a little bit, especially in the drafts and stuff like that in fantasy football, is he only had 19 receptions for 136 yards throughout his career. Okay, that's usually not what you want to talk about there. But back in high school, I mean, hey, we were all good in high school. Okay, at one point we were all pretty good, except when I put the film on and realized I'm not as good as I thought I was, because it's a little bit different there. But hey, right now, before I put the film on, I was pretty good. Well, Kenneth Walker, he had 64 receptions for 1,058 yards and 16 touchdowns in high school.
That's insane.
So he can catch the ball. He was able to catch the ball in high school, but it moved a little bit slower. I mean, when you're the big dog, the big fish in a little pond kind of thing, it's a totally different ball game. It slows down. I mean, things pick up the pace, and you hear footsteps a little bit more. Guys bigger, stronger, faster. Things equal out a little bit more in the NCAA. They get even a little tighter in the NFL. Now, what was another question you had for me there, Major?
Spiller, what's your thoughts on Spiller? I think he's like, to me, he's the third, and you put White above him. What's going on with Spiller?
With Spiller, I think it's more Spiller and Rachaad White for me. It's more of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other, right? It really is coming down to that. It becomes, what do you feel like? Do you like your coffee black or do you like it with a little bit of cream? It don't really matter. It's still coffee when it's all said and done. One's just got a little bit more sizzle, a little bit more. It's a little bit better. I just like Rachaad White a little bit better right now than Spiller. Now, Spiller does some pretty good things. I mean, when you look at the tape,
running back.
What's that?
Like I'm saying, like to me, he's one of those running backs. Like him and Breese Hall, to me, are two of the best like runners in this thing. Like they really like the art of running. They're good at that.
Well, I think the thing that sets Spiller apart there a little bit more is that acceleration coming out of those lateral cuts. You watch him, he plants that foot and he's off to the other side, and he doesn't lose any acceleration in doing so. And that kind of goes to where you're talking about there, where he looks like the running back. He scans the field well. He sees blitzes coming. I mean, he's got good contact balance. I just like what Rachaad White can do for you in the passing game. I really do. I think Rachaad White can play the slot just as well as he can play the running back position. And that's the difference between the two for me. Now with Isaiah Spiller, I do worry a little bit about him in inside running, that in between the tackles, there's a little bit of indecisiveness for me in that round. When I watched some of the film there, I mean, he did play some pretty good competition there in the SEC. That's where Texas A&M's out of. So, he played some good competition there. And he did have a little bit of issue with hanging on to the ball. So those are a couple little things there for me that's just kind of, okay, you know what? He's a good back. He's going to be a good back. I literally got him at number 4. It's no real slight on him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him at 4. So yeah, it's like I said, it's just whatever you feel the fancy for at this point. I just like Rachaad White a little bit more.
Well, I think you're wrong, but you got it.
Hey, I've been called worse things by better people, Major. So we'll all be happy with the word wrong.
Okay.
Dun, dun. I'll give my own sound effects on that. Now let's move along to the tight end position here because it's not a good group. It really isn't. I mean, we're going to see a consensus right across the board until we get to you because you're a little bit different there. But hey, for the most part, Trey McBride is going number one on most consensuses there, especially with Fantasy Pros. I talked about that's who we're using for our consensus here. Jaylen Whitamere, Isaiah Likely, Jeremy Ruckert, and Greg Dulcich. That's the top 5 per consensus right now. Now, when you look at this tight end group, how do you have it going down?
Yeah, so I'm going Jaylen Whitamere just off to me, he's the best athlete out of all these tight ends. Second, I have Trey Mcbride. I like Trey, but I think he's one of those workhorse guys, and I think he's kind of maxed out his like athletic ability, but he's going to, be at the right place at the right time, make the right block. He's going to run the right routes. He did surprise me with his 40 time, so it shows a little more athletic ability, but he was a little stiff to me. But my favorite tight end in this whole draft is my number 3, and that's Charlie Kohler. Like, I'll come back to that. And then, so my fourth one here, I have Jeremy Ruckert, whatever his name is, and then Jelani Woods. I like Woods just off his height and size. He had nice speed, so I think he'll be okay. But like you said, maybe 2 of these guys, make a squad and do something. But back to Charlie, he's just one of those warrior guys. He's gonna like wrestler guys, like the tight ends, whoever the best tight ends in the league right now, he's cut from that mold. He's one of those hardworking 6'6", runs a 4.6. Like, that's pretty good speed for a tight end, pretty good hands. He's not super athletic, but I think him being a little psycho kind of helps him with the athletic ability. But I'm high on him. I got turned on to him last year looking at film of Breece Hall, and I was like, who the heck is this guy keep making plays all over the place? And and again, that's why I went with Brock Purdy as well, because I watched so much film on Breece Hall. I kind of fell in love with these other 2 guys as well. So, he's just one of those players. 6'6", 256. Like, he's I don't know, something like, again, a gut feeling. I've been doing this for a long time, and when your gut is telling you something, you got to go with your gut.
Yeah, it was when you going back to Jaylen Whitamere there. I don't know whether to trust the film or trust my gut or trust the traits that he has. You mentioned his traits. He is as explosive looking as anyone else in the league. You've got a tight end here who basically is a wide receiver, 6'4", 255. He looks good, but he's kind of like plays like, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. I'll say it. I will. I have concerns because he's not aggressive when it comes to working back towards the ball. When it comes to battling for that ball, he's not going to win many of those 50-50 battles, which a guy his size, that skill level, you expect him to win. Little tiny DBs, those backs, those defensive backs, whatever you want to call, they become little gnats on him, and it really force it. I mean, he doesn't have that concentration. I mean, he dropped too many passes, and his hands were inconsistent for much of the 2021 film. You look, so there's a lot of red flags. I think there's going to be people up and down when it comes to Jaylen Whitamere. I think you can see guys have him at 1, 2, and I can see him out of people's top 10 right now as far as tight end rankings go, because I think there's such a wide gap here between his strengths and his weaknesses. I don't know if there's a happy medium.
The combine didn't help him at all. He had the worst combine out of everyone. I was actually like sad for him, but he looked a little. I hate calling people lazy, but he looked a little lazy, a little maybe just had an off day. Something it didn't look right. You can even see his facial expression, his body language. He just wasn't really into it. So I don't know if that's just who he is or that was just a bad day. But I still like his athletic ability. Maybe get with a coach who can help him with his hands a bit. But I agree with everything you said on that. But what's your list?
Yeah, I won't use the word lazy. I'll say passive. You kind of look passive out there. I think that's a good way to not call him lazy, right? That's basically
Yeah,
a nice
get out, yeah. But he just looked out of it. I don't know. It looked like he was passive is one thing, but he just looked like I didn't want to be here. Like he had that feel to him. But yeah, you go ahead.
I literally just changed my rankings right now as we're doing this because I'm going to go with Trey McBride at number 1. There's no doubt about it. He's still my number 1 right across the board. And then it gets interesting because I'm going to go with number 2, Jelani Woods. You want to talk freak athletes.
Number 2?
Number 2, 6'7", 259 pounds.
Wait. Was he even on your list?
Yeah, he was on my list. He was number 3 before I made some.
I don't remember that. I don't know.
34-inch arms. The dude is just a physical specimen with all kinds of athletic traits. You got that length. You got that stuff there. He bullies people. He's out there. He's a bully.
Yeah, he's
a
tough.
bully who can catch the ball. He's tough. He has to improve on that run blocking as a tight end, but he's got some abilities to flash a little bit of different speeds, different gears he's got out there. I mean, I'm telling you right now, the tight end class is not that good, but Jelani Woods is a pure athlete. I love everything that he can do out there on the field. And when you look at it, I mean, I just see him being the best fit out there. Now, for me, number 3, I'm going to go with the UCLA guy, Greg Dulcich there. He's my number 3. Jeremy Ruckert's going to be number 4. And I'll slide Jaylen Whitamere at 5 right now.
Wow.
Because I might even drop him yet. I don't know. He's a guy that keeps going up and down my rankings constantly. I'll watch one game and he'll kind of go up. I'll watch another game and he'll kind of come down. Like I said, I don't know. He doesn't have that consistency. The only thing consistent about him in 2021 was his inconsistency. So Jeremy Ruckert, I think is a guy who's not getting enough love. I mean, hey, he's a guy from like the Jersey there. Sal Lito, good friend of the show here, good friend of mine there. Knows him personally. He is an absolute man beast out there. So Jeremy Ruckert, I'll give him the number 4 spot for me for now. Now, this is where it's fun because I don't know how deep the wide receiver class is. It's tough to project it right now because some people are saying there's 5 or 6 guys at the top that could be as good as any. And then there's a considerable drop off there. You got some deeper sleepers and kind of no one knows where people slip. There's like 1 to 6 tier, and then there's like a 6 to 12 tier, and then there's everyone else. It's really interesting. And in those tiers, there's so much fluidity there. I mean, everyone's moving up. You can make a case for the number 5 receiver on one guy's board to be the number 1 receiver on someone else's board. True. You can make a case that a guy at number 10 is the number 6 guy pushing for number 5. And hey, what I say, if you get to number 5, you can be number 1. That is how fluid I think this wide receiver group really is. Now, the consensus currently has it as Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, Drake London out of USC, Chris Olave out of Ohio State, and out of Alabama, Jameson Williams. Now, there are a couple good Alabama guys in here. There's a couple good Ohio State guys in here. It's going to be an interesting how it all gets done. Now, we also mentioned here, that's the consensus top 5. Treylon Burks is in that group. Charles Davis has Johan Dodson out of Penn State going in the first round to the Green Bay Packers projected. He's also got Christian Watson out of North Dakota State going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Both those players are not in the consensus top 5, but it could arguably be first-round selections. That's kind of where we're at with how interested this wide receiver group is. Now, what do you have going down for your top 5 at the wide receiver position?
All right. My number 1 guy is Chris Olave. I think he, to me, route running plus speed, like the dude routes are like nasty. He's so precise in his route running, and he runs like a 4-0. My second one here, I have Treylon Burks. He was actually like 4th on my list going into the combine, but when he ran that 4.5, that really boosts him up on my list. Any guy that's like that big and runs a 4.5, I'll take that all day. Drake London is coming in at 3rd on my list. Size, his performance at SC was just amazing. He had a good 2 years there, with some good receivers around him. The next one on my list is Garrett Wilson. I like him. It's just a little quiet. Maybe that's a good thing, but he just gets the job done every single time. And I have Jameson Williams, fifth on my list. Speed. That dude is pure speed. You put him in a slot, I think he's gonna kill wherever he's at. But again, just the frame is a little slender. I'm still getting used to like these new receivers. They're kind of on the slender side. They're coming in like at 180 and stuff, like 190 into the league. Gone are the days of the 6'5", 220, 240 receivers. Everyone's now is like 5'11", 180 pounds. And then my deep sleeper is John Minchie the third. Like, that's one of my favorite players in this whole draft. Super explosive. He'll take a slant to the house. He's one of those guys. He's Jason Waddle light to me. I'm a huge Waddle fan, and I think John Minchie is cut from that same cloth. So he gets in that right spot. I think he's going to be all right. So that's my guy right there.
And I'm going to go to your pecking ground here because I do have a type. I still believe there is a world in which the big receiver can get the job done.
Right.
I mean, when we were looking back between like 2000 and 2010 or something in that ballpark, it was like the dinosaurs, right? It was the years of the big wide receivers, the Demaryius Thomases, those kind of guys. And then now we've kind of shifted. It's now these smaller guys getting the work done, the Devonta Smiths, these kind of guys. When you look at this class, I think the average weight of the wide receivers is under 200 pounds.
Right.
Across the board. Now, that makes me like the big boys a little bit more because I am a big boy. So I like my receivers to be big. I like them to be long. I like them to be aggressive. So number one for me is USC's very own Drake London. And like I said, I've seen these wide receivers kind of go all over the place as far as rankings are concerned. And I'm not going to talk about one receiver being better than the other because I think you can make a case for 5 different guys at number one. But hey, we know how much we like to talk about a guy who can catch a ball, who played basketball. He literally played basketball at USC the same time he was playing football. He only played a couple games and he got like COVID or something and kind of cut that basketball season short. But when you look at it, 6'4", 219 pounds. His breakout age was at 18 years old. Why did he break out? Well, here you go. In 2019, while sharing a wide receiver room with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman. Yeah, that's right. Amon-Ra St. Brown, NFL wide receiver. Michael Pittman, NFL wide receiver. London posted 30 catches for 567 yards, 5 touchdowns. Hence why we had that 99 percentile when we're talking about that breakout age. He was consistent. A little bit of injuries, kind of going back and forth. But even in 2021, you look at the numbers there. 1,084 yards, 88 receptions. He had a 24.8 target share, which led the Trojans. And he missed the last 4 games with a fractured ankle. Could you imagine what those numbers would have been if you add 4 more games total? I don't even know if we'd be having this conversation who the number one wide receiver is. I think Drake London would actually run away with it. Now, for me, the number 2 wide receiver in this class for me is Treylon Burks. I mean, what I say was 40 was 4.55, 4.53, something
around there. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? That's plenty fast enough to get away from defenders, right? 4.55, 33 inch vertical, 122 inch broad jump. Now we talk about that size, 6'2", 225. Allow myself a big boy. You put that size with that speed score jumps per player profiler there to the 87 percentile there. 106.4. You want to talk about dominating people? His college dominator rating, college dominator 45 was in the 92 percentile. He was playing for a really, really bad Arkansas team, playing in the SEC, right? The best conference arguably in the NCAA. And he was doing this with arguably one of the worst teams in that division. Everyone knew Treylon Burks is the guy you have to stop, yet nobody could do it. And that includes Alabama. Alabama could not find a way to stop him. The game they played this year, I'm trying to look at the numbers here. 8 catches, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Alabama Crimson Tide. That is absolutely insane to me. When you look at it, even back into 2020 against Missouri, 260 receiving yards on 10 catches against that team. You know he can go out there and he can dominate. He's got that Devontae Adams type. Hey, he doesn't look fast, but he's got plenty of acceleration to pull away. You're watching the film, And yet, for somehow, some way, for a guy at 4.55, he's pulling away from these DBs. Every DB, it doesn't matter. Put on the film, and he's pulling away from guys. It's just not fair when you can do that. Number 3 for me, Alabama's Jameson Williams. What's not to like about this guy? The guy is electric. He's basically like a punt returner with the ball in his hands as well.
Every time.
You look at him, 19.9 yards per reception. And the first thing you think of when you see a number like that is the dude is a field burner. Not necessarily. I mean, he can stretch the field. He's as fast as anyone in this draft. He's coming off that ACL injury. But here's the thing. He's a yak man. You know what I mean? He catches the ball. He can take it on a bubble screen to the house, on a slant to the house. He can burn you deep. What he does very well is he gets up on that DB, takes up all that cushion, gets on top of him, and then he cuts past him. That's how effective Jameson Williams is. Now, how did he end up in Alabama in the first place? Ohio State, we talked about Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson already being there. Then they got that Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's there. So Jameson Williams said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to Alabama. I'm going to compete with John Mechie, right? That's kind of how that kind of all broke down. He still had a 20.7 target share with John Mechie here in 2021 with Alabama. I love everything about this guy. The guy's special. He was a Biletnikoff finalist, all SEC. And I beg to differ. I beg to say it here right now. If he was playing in that game against Georgia, he would have been a difference maker in the national championship, much like he was in the regular season contest in which Alabama won. So I love myself some Jameson Williams. I think he is a difference maker at all levels. And at 4 and 5, I've got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I think it's kind of what your team is looking for. They're both good receivers. They're both right there. It's whatever your flavor of the week is for these guys. They're both fantastic players. So they're 4 and 5. And then my deep sleepers, they're not really deep because you watch them put on freak shows at the NFL Combine. Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati. You notice we have a little bit of theme here. We've talked about Desmond Ritter. We talked about Jerome Ford. Now we're talking about Alec Pierce. The guy put up some absolutely insane numbers. Maybe the most athletic numbers that we've seen at the Combine. The other guy that's right there, Charles Davis mentioned him going possibly in the first round. Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. For some reason, I don't know, it's because he's maybe playing out of North Dakota State. We're not talking about him enough. People are recognizing him. We're just not hyping him, if you know what I'm saying. So he's a guy that definitely needs more hype. 6'4". What kind of guy do I like? 6'4", 208 pounds, another one of those big receivers, 32-inch arms, ran a 4.36 40. Jumped absolutely out of the jib at 38.5-inch vertical, a 136 broad jump. You add his size with his speed, it's going to give you an absolutely insane speed score. You look at that vertical jump and that broad jump, you're going to get yourself a burst score coming through the roof. These are going to be in the upper 90 percentiles in both categories. He is an athletic freak. And if you put him with that Chiefs team, I think they'll ask you, Tyreek who? Really? I mean, if this is a guy that you're using to replace Tyreek Hill, I'm not going to say he's Tyreek Hill, but you look at these athleticism scores, he scored like a 90-90. A 99, not a 90-90, a 99. Some guys who are kind of in that ballpark here by measuring at least 6'4". So guys that are at least 6'4" that scored in that category. Calvin Johnson's in there. Some guy named Stephen Hill. I don't know if you remember Stephen Hill. He was in that talk way back when as well. These are some of the guys. It's a rare occurrence for a guy that big to score that well athletically. And I don't think that's being talked about nearly enough. And what else doesn't get talked about nearly enough is fantasypoints.com.
Oh, wait. Before you go to the fantasypoints.com, I like how you just segue and everything, but I'm calling a party foul on you. You got 2 deep sleepers. I only got 1. I'm going to call an audible. I'm throwing another sleeper in there because we got to balance things out here. And I'm going with my guy, Khalil Shakir. He is from Boise State, 6 feet, 193. I like him mostly because he performed at the Combine. He ran a nice 40 there. And another reason I like him because one of the guys in my home league is his agent. And, my guy Derek, shout out to Derek, and the guys over there, the agency, he talks about this guy a lot. This dude makes crazy catches. He has strong hands, contested balls. He's going to win those balls every single time. A little on the smaller side. So, the slot, he's going to ball out there. And speaking of balling out, back to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm going to just you like the small guys. I like the big guys. Alec Pierce is not one of those big guys I talked about as one of my other sleepers. They're 6'3", 211, 4'4", 140, 40.5-inch vertical, 129 broad jump.
But why you adding more stuff? You're supposed to talk about fantasy points now.
I will talk about fantasy points.
I segued you back into fantasy points, and you still try to like one-up me again by throwing more stats on your guy.
But you unsegued me, so I have to set myself up to
segue. And I said balling, you could have been like balling like fantasy points. I gave it back.
So we've talked about some sleepers here at the wide receiver position, right? We've talked about Alec Pierce. We talked about Christian Watson. We talked about Khalil Shakir. We talked about John Mechie. But do not sleep on fantasypoints.com. One of the best bang for the buck kind of things you can find out there right now. And they have a NFL prospect guide that dropped on April 1st right now, $25. 200 plus rookie profiles, courtesy of NFL Films, Greg Cosell. Strengths and weaknesses, NFL transitions, rookie rankings here, devy rankings. Plus, you get a little bit of a round table with guys like Scott Barrett, Wes Huber, Graham Barfield. Make sure to check this all out and use promo code Vipers22 and get yourself 10% off that subscription right now. Pile it up, do what you got to do, but make sure you get in on this because this is one of the best draft magazines, and it is draft season. You're going to want to get in on it. And you know what you're going to get on? You're going to want to make sure to subscribe to the Vipers YouTube network. Make sure you've got yourself downloading all the latest episodes here on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, because I am going to talk about prospects. My first one, Breece Hall, drops on Saturday here. So make sure to tune in for all that. Subscribe. We love you, and we'll see you next time because, hey, this has been the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast, and we gone.